And welcome to the Nate's Glow podcast. Today we have a very special episode. We are broadcasting right from Nate's bedroom, and it's the first time for that. I look around at his room and I see hundreds of books, posters, notes that he wrote to himself, motivational. I see some dirty clothes down there. Guess I'm going to clean it for him. But that's not all that makes today's episode special. Today we're going to begin reading the hit book, Nate's Journey. It's about his disappearance, the search and rescue, the recovery, our pain, and our healing, and what we want to do about this ridiculous epidemic of bullying. Like I've said multiple times, I'm not joining the bully war. I'm ending it. And it starts here with this book. I think that this book can really help some people who are going through something, whether that something is like what Nate went through or like what Nate's family went through, or even anything less serious. It can help people recover, and it lays out what we're going to do about bullying, because as I've said, I'm the wrong father for something to take my son. I'm not the type to roll over and die. Bullying takes my son off of this planet. I will take bullying off of this planet, and this podcast is one of the ways that I'm going to do it. So without further ado, let me share my screen here, and if it works right, there we go. You should be able to see that. This is Nathaniel Douglas Urbanski. He was born 03/03/03. Magical day. And he left this world October 2nd, 2025. So here is the next page. This is the Chatham Strong symbol. And this is about another tragedy that our community experienced this year, actually last year in 2025. Anyway, it says, our family was not the first in our community to experience a horrible tragedy in 2025. We would like to extend our sincere condolences to the angels who were lost, their families, and everyone else affected. We watched as the entire Chatham community surrounded you with their love and supported you in your time of need. And then they did the same for us. Our hearts are with you. This is the first of several warnings in this book. They're content warnings. This book is not an easy read. It contains and deeply discusses topics of suicide, bullying, existential grief, depression, and other mental health issues. Reading about these types of things is not for everyone. If you know or if you feel like reading this book may affect you in a negative way, put it down now. You do not have to read it. I write what I write here as nothing but my own opinions. You are encouraged to use your own judgment to anything I've written within these pages. Also, I do not recommend reading this entire book in one sitting. It is just too intense. Please, if you continue with this saga, make sure to take frequent breaks. Maybe go spend some time in nature or looking at the sky, and then come back to this book after a while. All you really need to know is that there are thousands upon thousands of good days ahead of you. Seriously, great days, magical days, things you will be glad you are there for. Your loved ones will experience great days too, and they will experience them much better if you are there alongside them. Of course, things will not always be easy, but there are resources made by the very people who have experienced exactly what you are experiencing. Resources that you can learn and research to help you navigate the challenges of life. The resources are there, and they are not created by someone who thinks they know what needs to happen. They are created by those who have experienced it. Let these resources be the things that save you, and then go off into your life and help save others. In fact, if you have experienced the dark days of which I speak, then I ask you not only to seek out those resources, but to become them. Be the light for others. Accept, on a deep and spiritual level, the divine mission that your experiences have called you to. This will provide you with the purpose of your pain. This will answer your why. Stepping into your purpose will make everything very, very clear for you. My friend, saving others is an excellent purpose. If you are experiencing suicidal thoughts, then please immediately call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. If you are in crisis, tell somebody, and call the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline at 988. This is dedication. It's for my sons, Joseph, Nate, and Kurt. I love you guys, and I know that you all love each other. You are great, beautiful, and absolutely perfect. Thank you for not just being a part of my life, but for being all of it. To Nate, I love you, man. I love you so, so much. Your brothers love you, and we miss you tremendously. We are so sad that you are gone, but we are happy that we got to know you and experience your love. Travel well, son. We will see you again. The afterlife is real. Love, Dad. To the Chatham, Illinois Police Department, the entire Chatham community, the Sangamon County Sheriff's Department, the Illinois State Police, all the professional and volunteer search and rescue teams, and everyone who shared Nate's missing persons report, Springfield Monument, and everyone else who was in any way involved or otherwise supporting the search for my son and the completion of his burial. Thank you. Thank you a million times. And not just for your support and help, but also for showing Nate from his heavenly perch all the love and compassion that friends, family, and strangers had for him. We will skip past the table of contents. Nate's journey from here to heaven, ragged rope of words. I am writing these words as a father who has seen true Armageddon with his own eyes. Please do not dismiss that statement. I did not exaggerate. I only share our story to provide all of humanity with a warning sign, a giant billboard that says, "Do not come this way." My world has been decimated, shattered, and destroyed, obliterated. There are no words descriptive enough, no words comprehensive enough. Nate is gone, and I am too. I find myself, my other sons, and the rest of our family in the worst type of aftermath a human can experience. The worst a human can experience, period. We lost Nate. Now I am no longer alive, but I am also not dead. I am caught in some type of distant plane. I'm dissociated, depressed, and gravely injured. I'm lost in a different dimension, trapped in an alternate reality of shock and true horror. It's not post-traumatic stress disorder. It's current traumatic stress disorder. And it is akin to hell. If I am to survive this, I must find a way to get my spirit to come back into what is left of my body. I will need my own version of a miraculous resurrection. I must find a way forward, but I cannot. I can't because there is no way. The only hope for me is a miracle. Nate's brothers, my own children, look at me with end-level pain and dread in their eyes. Trust me, no parent should ever see that look in their children's faces. That look is now etched in my consciousness. We are living in a real-life horror movie. That is part of the reason I'm writing this, to somehow help keep other people from ever experiencing this. Wouldn't you try to warn people if you experience this? What do we do, Dad? Is this how hell is? How do we survive without Nate? Is our family done? Is that look within their eyes? And I do not have the answers. Well, I have one of them. I know that this is absolutely how hell is. The thing that matters most in this world is our family. So what do we do when we lose it? How do we continue after our family is damaged? How do I save Nate's brothers? What in the hell happens now? I must find a way back. I cannot be comatose. I still have kids. I still have a life. I have my mom, my brother, and my sister. I have friends and family. I have strangers watching me to see if I survive, or maybe they're watching to see how I survive. I'm desperate to find a way back. But the truth is, there isn't one. There is just no way back from this. There is no. So, I will have to build one. But what will I build it with? I am nothing. I have nothing. I do not know who I am anymore. I do know that I used to be a writer. I have published books before. I have written poems. Maybe I could write. Maybe I could build a ragged rope of words to pull me from hell so that I could strengthen my other sons, keep Nate's memory alive, and help him save people like you and the people you love. The journaling. I began journaling, the only thing I knew how to do. It was hard to write myself near any good answers or conclusions. Anytime I made a millimeter of headway, 1,000 questions from strangers poured into my text messages, my social media, and in person. Nate's disappearance, the massive search, and the discovery had gone viral publicly. Everyone knew, everyone had questions, and everyone had been pulled into our story. As my journal grew, I began to find some tiny connections, tiny fibers that might help me begin building this ragged rope of words. Soon, I noticed a pattern in some of the questions I received. People reached out from all over the country. Some of these people had experienced in their lives the very thing our family experienced. Some of them experienced other types of tragic losses to people they loved. They didn't want my answers. They needed them. That is when I knew I would write and publish this book. I would build the ragged rope out of nothing, pull myself up, save my other sons, and save anyone who would be willing to read what I have written here. It could be a roadmap out of grief for people. Maybe these words will pull someone from the idea of ending their life. In a way, Nate could still have a positive impact on people. His story could help prevent other people's suicide. His story could help end the bully war. He could awaken people. Nate can still save lives. Within these pages, I have built such a rope. I must warn you, it is ragged and it does hurt. And I will be referencing my pain regularly throughout these chapters. So please be prepared for that. Reading this book will not be easy, nor is it for the faint of heart. I hope it may serve as a deterrent to suicide or help others heal from traumatic loss, and I think that alone makes it worth it. Know that I have written this book in the worst mental state I've ever been in. Expect grammar errors, inconsistencies, plot holes, and formatting mistakes. Expect timeline jumps and abrupt flow and topic changes. If you are looking for a perfectly polished book or an entertaining story, this isn't it. This is a book of pain and a father trying to survive. Here's a picture of Nate out in Kansas. That's such an adventure on that trip. Maybe I'll tell that story. We'll see. Top 20 questions. We had more than 20, but we did have some regular ones. What were the events just before and after Nate's disappearance? People wanted to know. Can you provide insider details to the massive search and rescue effort? Who found him? What did his bullies say to him that triggered this? Are you going after the bullies? Was he in therapy? Was his life one long, never-ending stream of depression? How are his brothers? Are his brothers upset with him for doing this? Are you mad at Nate? Were there signs missed? What mistakes did you make? Do you blame yourself? Any tips on how to prevent a loved one from committing suicide? Any tips on navigating guilt and grief? Is afterlife real? How are you able to continue? Are you going to be okay? Do you still feel him? What is next? Introduction. A young man once walked this earth, a beautiful, kind, and loving soul who should still be here. Nate had special needs, but more than that, he was special to his family. His heart, his wisdom, his relentless pursuit of kindness truly made our house a home. He was my son, my teacher, and my best friend. But Nate's life was stolen by cruelty. He told me that the bullying he endured was not just teasing. It was targeted, relentless, and devastating. He said that his tormentors did not just mock him. Some of them openly discussed suicide. And in the end, their words became unbearable. Nate listened, and now he is gone. Since the tragedy was public and had gone viral, our family's pain was raw and open for all the world to see. This led to an outpouring of love and support that I know is making Nate smile even now. However, since tens and tens of thousands at least of people were following along during the search and recovery, many people have remained in contact. They want to know things. They are interested in the details. They want to know what happened, how our family is coping, and they want to know all kinds of things. At first, it wasn't my intention to write a book. How could a father even have any intentions at a time like this? Intentions are a thing of the world, and I was not in this world. I was just trying to survive. I was writing in my journal, trying to make sense of things, trying to understand the ununderstandable. Nate's brothers looked to me for some kind of guidance in this horrible nightmare, but I was in no shape to guide. I was damn near dead. I soon realized that, as a father, I did not have the luxury of being dead. It was strange to think about it that way, but I still have 2 kids to think about. I had to crawl out of that hole. I had to pull myself up with the rope that you are holding in your hands. I hope you will give it a yank and maybe even share it with some other people. As public interest and questions continued to pour in, everyone looked at me to see what they should do. I found that I probably needed to write this book, even if originally it was just for my own personal healing. Other people could get something out of it too. I thought it could be a pathway back to living. As the words became pages and the pages became chapters, I realized that healing actually is in these words. If I can capture my recovery in writing, others can use that when they are recovering. If I could explain my mistakes, others would not make the same ones. The idea of a book started to make sense. Honestly, I didn't have any other option anyway. I had to write my own way out of that darkness. I wrote it for me. I wrote it for my kids. And I wrote it for you. As I wrote, my heart ached with a pain I never imagined would be possible. It sounds cliche to even write that, but there are no cliches in this book. Every word is the truth. Every morning, I wake up screaming. Every night, I pray for the strength to keep going. I've shared our story because I refuse to let Nate's suffering, his brother's suffering, and the suffering of so many others be in vain. Bullying is not just a childhood problem. It happens to adults too. Although he had special needs, Nate was technically an adult at 22 years old, but some parts of him were much younger than that. We need to remember that people, especially young people and those with special needs, develop at different rates. That's the thing about special needs kids. They grow up. They turn into special needs adults. Some people out there in the world have trouble understanding that just because someone may look like an adult, they may be functioning on some levels on that of a child. I know that being cruel and saying cruel things to others is fairly common in society, but cruelty can kill, and that's why kindness is important. There's absolutely no reason to bully, harass, or abuse anyone for any reason at any time. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't make things better. Cruelty is a form of mental illness. Nate knew that. It sucks that his bullies didn't. Bullying is a crisis that destroys lives, families, and futures. It destroyed ours. We must end it. No one else should feel this pain. We must fight for every child in school, every adult in a toxic environment, and anyone else who feels abused. Our family has faced the absolute worst case scenario related to bullying. We are in a good position to see the issue clearly. I will start by taking Nate's message, love, faith, and hope, and turning it into an organization. I will name that organization Nate's Glow. Although we will have many goals, the first one we will focus on is getting this book into the hands of every human on the planet. I believe the words I have written here may just save someone's life. Nate may just save someone's life. Any proceeds from the sale of this book will go to help Nate's family recover and try to rebuild some sort of life after this. But more importantly, proceeds will go to fund the Nate's Glow organization to help end bullying, to stop suicides, and to help families recover after tragedy strikes. In short, we will teach others how to live the good life. Through this mission, Nate will make the world a better place. I must again warn you, before you dive into the depths of these pages, that I deeply discuss topics on suicide. I caution that some may not be in a place to read such hard but brutally honest truths. If you are sensitive to this topic, or if you think that exposure to this topic may be more than you can or should handle, then please put this book down and discontinue reading. I say this because it's about to get intense. If you or someone you love is struggling, please reach out for help. Call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline at 800-273-8255. And if you're in crisis, call 988 or 911. You are not alone. Remember, there are no cliches in this book. You are truly not alone. You are loved, and your story matters. If you can hold on through the darkness, then the light becomes your destiny. This book is my promise to Nate. I will not let his light be extinguished by darkness. I will carry his message of love, hope, and faith, and courageous kindness into the world. I will work as a father who has lost a precious son to continue to help realize Nate's goals, dreams, and desires on this planet. Here's Nate taking a picture of a Christmas tree. Went to the tree farm every year as the boys were growing up. Nate was with us in a different way this year. Ramping up. The sting of his absence is jarring to my soul. Every breath feels like a struggle. I am desperately trying to make sense of things, but the truth is nothing makes sense anymore. Most days I am bedbound and weak, overwhelmed by a grief that has shattered my body, my mind, and every part of anything I ever called my life. I'm trying to climb out of this dungeon. My thoughts are scattered. My heart is broken. And everything I once knew is destroyed. But this pain is not mine alone. Nate's brothers, Joseph and Curtis, are suffering in ways I cannot fully describe. I see the agony in their eyes, the confusion. I hear it in their voices and feel it in the silence that now fills our home. Their world has been turned upside down, and as their father, I carry not only my own grief, but theirs as well. The weight of their pain presses down on me, and I do my best to hold them up, even as I am struggling myself. Our entire family is reeling. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone who loved Nate is hurting. The loss ripples outward, touching every corner of our lives. I feel responsible for their pain too. It is as if I have absorbed the suffering of everyone who loved my son, and it is too much to bear. Sleep offers no escape. Night after night, I am tormented by nightmares that I would not even describe here. Every morning, I wake up crying. Even in the daylight, the nightmare continues. There is no peace, only pain. There is only torture. In the midst of this darkness, I wrote a poem that captures the relentless agony of these mornings. Morning, I wake up screaming every morning. I know now why we call it morning. I'm doing my best to see through the fog and share the sequence of events as honestly as I can. Some of my dates and timelines may be out of order and some details may blur together, but I promise to do my best, even as I reel from the constant agony of losing my son. So I apologize if I meander or include literary mistakes. I'm just trying to be real, and I'm just trying to survive. Perfect grammar isn't my goal here. I'm not claiming that I've written a perfect book. There's nothing easy about this. It is a miracle I can even type. But I want you to know how Nate lived, not just how he died. Please be warned, this book contains difficult topics, including suicide and the harsh realities of bullying. If reading about these subjects affects you in a negative way, Please take care of yourself and step away if you need to. If you choose to continue, please brace yourself. This is the hardest story I will ever tell. But I ask you not just to witness our pain, I ask you to join Nate's Glow at www.natesglow.org. Help us fight for a world where no other family has to endure this kind of suffering. We can make a difference. Together, we can honor Nate's memory by choosing courageous kindness, by standing up against cruelty, and by reaching out to those who need help the most. In the days before, our family was doing pretty good. We were solid. As solid as any family, I suppose. Each of us was optimistic about the future. We all had goals that we were actively making progress towards. Heck, sometimes we even felt real peace, like real inner peace. It was great. My job provided enough income to keep us going and even provided a little extra to invest towards goals and dreams. Although we were not rich, we had each other. And since we had each other, we had everything we needed. Our latest project was a small power washing business. It was a project that gave us a sense of progress as a family. It was something that Nate could really be a part of. It would even give us all a little more financial freedom, and more importantly, more time together. My sons all had their own jobs as well. They had their own ambitions and things they wanted out of life, but they always left room for each other within those goals. It always made me so proud that they included each other like that. They all had an understanding and a desire to keep the family strong and united, yet beneath that optimism, I was always aware of the burdens each of us carried. It has not always been easy. We have faced some steep challenges, and as a father, I know that more challenges are on the way. But I also know that more wins are on the way as well. Life comes complete with all of its ups and downs. One of the ways we learned to navigate these ups and downs was by intentionally managing our focus. We discovered that if we focused on what was going wrong, then we would generally find more things going wrong. If we focused on solutions, we would generally find more solutions. If we focused on the things that were going right, we would experience more things going right. There was a pattern there, a hidden secret. We found something very powerful about focus. It seemed that it would expand or multiply whatever you put it on. Since we knew this, we tried to focus on the things we loved and wanted more of in our lives. Some of our passions were nature and hiking. We loved adventures. I made sure that the kid's life was full of wonder, excitement, appreciation, and love. We have so many good memories. Honestly, it's a blessing. We cherish our dogs and our cat. We don't steal, we don't harm, and we hold tightly to our faith. Kindness and compassion are something we want to see more of. And in our hearts, I know we are good. Life is not without challenges, though. Nate's journey was never simple. His battles were visible to many who met him. While he fought for happiness, financial freedom, and love, just like anyone else, his path was steeper and more complex. Nate had special needs, and he knew it. He was also very intelligent and equally aware of his differences. All he wanted was to feel normal, or at least to be seen as normal by those around him. He worked tirelessly on self-acceptance and self-development. He hoped that one day people would stop staring at him in public and stop seeing him as odd. All he really wanted was for people to return the love he offered so freely. When that love wasn't returned, it confused him. The disappointment weighed heavily on him, deepening his depression. And he did not want to be depressed. He didn't feel like he chose it, and he didn't feel like he deserved it. Instead of turning to the usual distractions like socializing, video games, intoxicants, or the things most young people do, Nate immersed himself in study. He was driven by a sense of mission that bordered on obsessive. Day after day, he read and researched, searching for answers to a special needs condition. He felt that if he could reduce his symptoms, he could start chipping away at the depression and achieve a better experience of life. So he studied and practiced and worked tirelessly on his healing. He was determined to find a cure and share it with the world. He didn't just want to do it for himself. He wanted to ease other people's suffering. His daily walks became a ritual, sometimes more than once a day, and soon he was a familiar sight in our community. Everyone in Chatham, Illinois recognized his fuzzy head as he wandered the sidewalks, paused on the park benches, stopped to touch a tree or feel the petals of a flower. I joined him on many of these walks, listening to his thoughts and watching his actions. With each step, found myself loving him more. In public, Nate drew the eyes of strangers. I just wish he could see himself as I did. His gait was unique, his presence almost radiant, and he had adopted the habit of affirmations, quietly repeating love, love, love as he walked. It was as if he was channeling love itself, cultivating it within, and sharing it with everything and everyone he encountered. When he paused to touch a tree, to feel a weed, or to smell a flower, he was saying the word love, not just thinking it, but truly embodying it. How many people know who do that? That was Nate. Love was his quirk. His approach to kindness was fundamentally different from most. He didn't act kind or try to be kind. He just was kind. He didn't teach it. He didn't talk about it. He rarely even used the word kindness. It was just in his nature. Isn't that the best type of kindness? Nate did not judge, did not gossip, did not hold grudges, and saw little value in criticism. He didn't believe in holding negative opinions about other people. He refused to harm or kill anything. And if I had to choose a word to describe him, it would be benevolent. The very definition of someone with a disposition to do good, to show absolute kindness, and to promote happiness in others. To me, Nate was an angel. Now I know he really is. There he is, Nate in his four-leaf clover. Look at the sweetness in his face. Putting the Nate in nature. Out in nature, Nate found his peace. The world made sense to him there. He would meditate to keep his mind calm and clear. When he was surrounded by the songs of crickets and birds, the beauty of the sky, and the gentle presence of the trees, he was in his habitat. He was in his happy place. He liked it because the plants, clouds, animals, and water all reflected his love back to him. That is why Nate loved being outside. That is why he walked the sidewalks and the trails of Chatham with such devotion. He was generating, absorbing, and recirculating love. It is my hope that the residents of Chatham will remember him for that. With all my boys living under one roof, I saw them, hugged them, and told them I loved them every day. But as Nate's father, I watched his struggles closely. And a couple of weeks ago, I noticed him slipping deeper into depression. My instincts told me to act, so I put in for a vacation at work, determined to spend time at home, to care for myself, and most importantly, to be present for Nate and his brothers. I felt a renewed sense of hope because Nate had an upcoming appointment with one of Springfield's most highly regarded and expensive therapists. He had already seen a specialist just days before, and he was being treated by a doctor for depression. And he had also met with other therapists and mentors. And I believe that more therapy could only be a good thing. On the first morning of my long overdue vacation, I awoke early while the kids were still sleeping, determined to keep the day simple. No big projects, no work on the pressure washing business. Just time at home with my family, our cat Rabbit, and our dogs Shadow and Seymour. Joseph, my youngest, was the first to wake up. He was heading out to his new job as a core sampling robot operator. A robot operator? It was a role that amazed us all. My baby boy had entered the robotics industry early, and we were all proud of him. It was his first grown-up job, and he loved it. I hugged him and told him I loved him, and then he was off to work. After that, I was lying on the couch, reflecting on how I would normally be at work at this time, when Nate's bedroom door opened. I watched him walk down the hallway, something I had witnessed countless times. The dogs rushed to greet him, and he bent down to tell them he loved them. This was something he did at least 10 times a day. He would pet and hug them until they were satisfied. And after their joyful chaos, he came to me, and I jumped up to hug him. And we exchanged our daily I love yous. When I asked about his plans, Nate seemed a little hopeful. He told me that he was going to go get a breakfast pizza at the gas station, cruise around the lake as he often did, and then come home to do his exercises. He was up to 200 push-ups a day with a full workout and stretching routine that he followed religiously. I was so proud of him and all the progress he made. I told him I loved him, and I told him to have a good day. As he walked out the door, I pretended to return to the couch, but I could not resist sneaking over to the window to watch him leave. I've always done this. I watched him drive away until he was out of view. Curtis woke next, already in a hurry to get to work. We didn't have a long time to interact, but I hugged him, wished him a good day, and told him I loved him, and watched as he rushed out the door. Of course, I went to the window to watch him too, hoping I would hear him ring his little bell on his electric scooter that he was taking to work. Left alone with the animals, I considered doing housework, but reminded myself that I deserved a break, so I allowed myself to relax. Later, Nate returned, heading straight to his room and calling out, "Love you," as he passed. It wasn't unusual, but I was on a heightened alert, remembering a conversation we had a few days ago about the bullying he had experienced at his old job. Not everyone there was a bully, but a couple were, and they had apparently said some truly vile things. Nate had typed up a long letter and considering whether to post it online. This letter was incredibly long and discussed many of the things from our conversation the other day. It laid bare a lot of the things he was dealing with at work, some of the things he could not deal with. I will list some, but not all, of what he wrote. I will share it mainly just to show you a fraction of what he endured. I also think that it may be helpful to show you that Nate was well-spoken and had a full grasp of the English language. He was an intellectual genius and a master of words. He was just smart enough to keep his words to himself sometimes. People would occasionally ask me if Nate was nonverbal or barely verbal, but that was not the case at all. I was always shocked when I got that question. I would often think to myself, just because someone doesn't want to talk to you doesn't mean they are nonverbal. He spoke to me, he spoke to his brothers, he spoke to all kinds of people. And when he chose to communicate, he spoke eloquently and had a depth of knowledge that still amazes me. Nate wasn't nonverbal. I prefer to call him selectively verbal, and that all depended on whether he felt like talking or not. After spending some time in his room, he came out and asked if we could talk. I dropped everything to give him my full attention. He sat in the recliner, made eye contact, which is sometimes rare for him, and asked, "How am I doing?" "You're making a lot of progress, son," I replied. "If you look at where you were 2 years ago to now, it's truly amazing. I hope you can see that." He shrugged. "Yeah, maybe a little. But I knew it was more than a little. A normal life was within reach." We talked about his usual interests, like posture, pelvic tilt corrections, and stretches. I was always excited and interested to learn about where his studies were taking him. Lately, that was exploring misalignments. It was like he was working on a thesis that involved mental, physical, and even spiritual misalignment that are the roots of most of the problems we face as humans. For Nate, it wasn't a theory. He was completely convinced. I wanted to bring up the bullying, but I knew that if I pushed too hard, he might shut down. So I let him speak about the things he liked. He was always eager to share what he'd learned, and I was eager to hear what he was passionate about. When the moment felt right, I did ask if the bullies were still bothering him, and he mumbled no. I tried to pry deeper, but he wanted to leave it at that and redirected the conversation elsewhere. I was just thankful that he was communicating. He seemed like he was doing okay. He wasn't in a state of despair. He gave no indication of what the next day would bring. Here's a good memory. This is a little speck down there by the trunk of that tree is Nate. This tree is a McBain's bur oak in Missouri. The caption says, "This tree is an important tree to our family. I first visited it when I rode a bicycle from Chatham, Illinois to Compton, California. That was a whole different journey of challenges, perils, losses, and victories. A couple of years after I got back, I took Joseph and Nate, via car this time, along the route that I had biked. We camped at this tree as we were headed west on our great adventure. On the way back from Compton, we camped here again. Nate loved this tree. Look at him out there, connecting with spirit. Several days earlier, I'd seen him upset after coming home, so I went out to his car, and he started to vent about his ex-coworkers, explaining that some of them were still bullying him. Even though he had quit his job a couple of months ago, for the first time, I learned the true depths of what he had endured. When I asked what they had said, he told me that some of them called him awkward. It hurt him when people said things like that to him. My blood boiled. This was my kind and beautiful son, taking his actual first steps into the world. This was his first job, and people like that were undoing all the progress we had made. The thing is, we do not need to tell special needs people that they are different because they probably already know. Nate knew. He also knew that using a word like awkward carries a negative connotation to those differences. This confused him because other than his mannerisms, the only thing that was different about him was that he was unafraid to love. I explained that sometimes people say things and they may not be aware of how that might make someone else feel. It isn't that they are trying to make someone feel bad necessarily. It's just that being kind isn't something that they have learned yet. We can protect and strengthen ourselves by being strategic about how we perceive things. Then Nate revealed that some of them talked about suicide. The word hit me like a punch. I didn't know how to be strategic about the way I perceived that. My anger spiked, but then quickly melted into love. I hugged him and let him know that suicide was not an option. And then he shared some things that broke my heart even further. He told me they talked about suicide often. He said that they once joked about how disgusting it would be if he did it at work, sometimes even taking bets right to his face about how, when, and where he would do it. They talked about raping him. Rage surged inside me. Why hadn't he told me this months ago? Nate is literal, truthful, sincere, and logical. Most people do not understand how different special needs people can be. They may not process sarcasm, banter, or jokes the way a neurotypical person does. This is one of their differences. As he spoke, my anger deepened, but I kept it hidden. I told him that some people are cruel for no reason, that he didn't deserve any of it, and that they sounded like the crazy ones. I wanted to go in there and confront them, but he said, no, most of them don't even work there anymore. I suggested he block those people and move forward, and he agreed. He seemed okay after our talk, but I wasn't. I wanted to storm in and tear the place apart, but he told me that not all his coworkers were like that. Plus, it had been almost 2 months since he worked there. He was seeing a doctor. He had seen a therapist. He had a big therapist appointment coming up in a couple of days. So I decided to discuss it with other family members to figure out the best way to address it. The next day, Nate brought me a laptop and the lengthy letter he had written, asking me to review it before he posted it online. The letter was long, describing his first excursion into the world, his first voyage. The following are some disturbing excerpts. Looking back, this is one of the moments that I should have taken greater action on. I hope Nate can forgive me. There's Nate and Joseph on the way to Compton. These are from the long letter he wrote. The letter was about the length of a book, so I just picked some things to put here. He says, to preface, I currently and have previously faced some mental health conditions. I am undiagnosed, but am technically special needs. I do have autism, a large amount of anxiety, depression, OCD, PTSD, and my fair share of trauma. I've struggled with these conditions my whole life, and they've brought me to some low places. Before Employer, a few years before, I was going through a severe bout of depression, social isolation, and general mental and physical health issues. I didn't know if I'd make it through. Eventually, a year or two before Employer, I started to improve. I was fighting. I had gotten so much better, almost a miracle. I was finally bettering my life to some extent, with some help. Eventually, it got to a point in time where I thought my next step, I should at least try to find a job outside of family lawn care business and odd jobs. My family encouraged me. I applied to many places, and my second interview was Employer. I did end up getting that job. My experience at Employer was traumatizing, especially towards the end. I was intentionally being pushed to be on the verge of suicide. My general understanding of Employer, before I started unraveling what happened, was that it was like home. I had, in my perspective, to some extent, that I could attain a social circle there, friends, seemingly romantic potential with Employer, financial situation, something to keep me busy. I considered it generally quite positive, especially at times, though it wasn't always like that. It was my life, in a sense, and a lot about it was good. Like I said, before Employer, I experienced a significant amount of social isolation for periods of time. So this attention was new to me. I started to like these people. I was closest to them at Employer compared to anyone else, more bonded to them than I'd been to anyone in a long time. Eventually, Girl 1 left Employer. Short notice. A bit of a surprise. I thought we had more time for me to grow and us to connect. That's what I was hoping for. She kept trying. On her last day, my day off, I decided I'd go for it and tell her how I feel. I came in, brought some candy, and told her, but then quickly walked out. I was hoping I'd see her again, that she'd stay, or that she felt the same. I didn't see her again. I waited, heartbreak, but she was gone. I didn't see her again. This led me to be a bit more reserved and depressed, but I still showed up and tried my best to be and to appear happy. Though over time, especially as other events happened, I was becoming more depressed. Girl 1 was gone. Girl 2 was still here but more distant. As time went by, some things in time seemed really good, despite me feeling like I lost the person I liked the most. It did weigh on me how that connection disappeared. My mannerisms, how I walked, how I talked, it triggered a reaction in people. I was in my special needs state, sitting in this 40-hour work week job, often allowed to skip breaks while I was up on the cash register the entire day, every day. Eventually, a desire in some coworkers festered to either get me to cave and seek help through the form of opening myself up sexually, or also trying to find a way to make me feel or appear how they did, like a sort of sexual pervert. And beyond that, desire for me to commit suicide. This set in motion some very disturbing events. There was a lot of slander and bullying, talks about forced sexual activity upon me, all raping me, violence upon me. Towards the end, a clear desire to get me to kill myself and to formulate a way to do that, expecting me or thinking I'm going to harm myself in front of them, and how no one is going to stop me from offing myself. They caused and increased by tearing down the mental health of an already suffering guy. Boy 1 literally said the intrusive thoughts started after he started talking about me and girl 2. And he wasn't like this when he got here. Boy 1 said, I can control his mind. I can make him do whatever I want to do. I'm realizing I walked in this place, honestly not great, but having improved so much after so long, and I left this place completely destroyed and traumatized and spaced out. I understand I have intrusive thoughts. I understand I'm not the most mentally healthy. I understand I don't always make the best decisions. I'm understanding that I don't always make people feel the best. But I genuinely want to get better at everything. I want to be better. And I see myself being that way in time, a much healthier, higher functioning human being. And these things don't help. I think what happened has more to do originally with how I made other people feel, rather than what people think who or what I am. And I never once had an intention to make anyone feel bad. I will get better, but this was crazy. I'm trying to get better and be a good person. Please don't try and ruin my life and get me to kill myself. Forgive yourself. Forgive me. I love you, even if I don't show it very well. Give me some time to heal and reveal an opportunity. Please love me back and don't pretend to and start to hate me because it's easier. I've literally been fighting to save my life and get better for a decade. Just would like a smooth path. Promise I'll help out in my path. I'd like to help overall. Let me just work on myself. I want to be better. I love you. Those were just a few quotes from Nate's long, heartfelt letter. What stands out most about Nate was his unwavering honesty. His condition made him literal, sincere, and incapable of anything but the truth. When he shared his experiences with me, I knew I was hearing exactly what he lived through. Reading his words, I felt a surge of anger and heartbreak. What he endured was far beyond unacceptable. Our family debated on how to handle the employer problem. Do we go in there? Do we protest out in front? Do we sue or otherwise hold them accountable? Should someone be arrested? We asked, who was at fault? Was it the employer or the employee? Ultimately, we decided to wait for the results of the investigation. Only then could we know the proper course of action. Plus, Nate had an upcoming appointment with a new therapist, one of the best in Springfield. I was determined to do everything I could to help him heal from the bullying and pain he suffered. At least now, he's out of that toxic environment. The night before his appointment, I got ready for bed. I reminded him about the appointment and that the need to arrive early for paperwork. I told him I love him, and he told me he loves me too. And he wrapped me in the longest, strongest hug I felt from him in ages. I'll forever hold on to that moment. I say good night, Nate. Love you, and headed to bed, hopeful that tomorrow will bring a step towards healing. There's Joseph and Nate fishing and swimming at the lake. The, the search. I woke up early so I could get a head start on this important day. It's the second day of my vacation, and I know we're going to make some great progress. Nate's therapist appointment is in a couple hours, and I know we will get some answers. I let that feeling of hopefulness guide me. The house is quiet. The dogs are sleeping. As I slip on my shoes and head out the door, the air is cool this morning. I can feel that fall is coming soon. I drive to the gas station, driving slowly and weaving through the neighborhoods, making sure to take my time and relax. It has been a long time since I didn't have to be at work in the morning. This is long overdue. Inside, I grab a slice of bacon breakfast pizza. I'm pretty sure I'm known as a regular. I also get some caffeine. I know I will need every ounce of energy today. I think about Nate, about what he might want for breakfast, and I make a mental note to pick up something for him when we leave for the appointment. Back home, Shadow and Seymour greet me with wagging tails, and they jump all over me. I kneel down and rub their faces and ears, and I tell them I love them. I give them some breakfast and fresh water, and then I let them out to do their business. I watch them run across the yard, their energy a stark contrast to the heaviness I feel inside. As they finish, I pull out my phone and double-check the therapist's address. I want everything to go smoothly today. I want to be prepared to eliminate any chance of stress or confusion. I study the route and memorize the turns and picture us arriving early to fill out paperwork. I am also managing my own mood. I want to have an air of confidence and peace to help make sure Nate feels comfortable with this. I glance at the clock, calculating the best moment to wake Nate. He needs sleep. I know he needs it, but I do not want him to feel rushed. It is important for him to have enough time to get ready and to move at his own pace. Plus, it is entirely possible he will just get up on his own. I guess we will see what happens. I wait as long as I can and then decide it's time. I send him a text. Are you up and moving? I wait, watching the screen, but there is no reply. I remind myself that this is normal. My kids rarely respond to the first wake-up call. I give him 10 more minutes, hoping he will wake up, and then send another message. Still nothing. I start to feel a twinge of impatience, but I push it aside. Maybe he's just tired. Maybe he needs a little more time. Trying a different tactic, I send a third text. We probably need to leave in 15 minutes. I figure a sense of urgency might get him moving. I imagine Nate reading the message, realizing the clock is ticking, and jumping out of bed. But again, silence. The minutes slip by, and my anxiety begins to increase. I walk down the hallway with floorboards creaking beneath my feet. I stop at Nate's door and knock softly. Nate, I say, hoping to hear his voice or to see him open his door, sleepy but ready. Nothing. I knock again, louder this time, my patience thinning. He knows how important this is. He knows we can't be late. I start feeling frustration mixed with anxiety. There is no more time to wait. I open the door, calling his name as I step inside. Inside, I gasp and instantly lose my breath. The room is a mess. There are boxes dumped across the bed. His belongings are scattered everywhere. But what stops me cold is the emptiness. Nate isn't there. My nerves shatter and my blood pressure tanks. My peace is replaced by a sudden pounding fear. My heart races boom, 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 echoing in my ears. My mind spirals and I search for answers. Maybe he just didn't want to go. Maybe he is hiding. But the chaos in the room tells a different story. I move closer and scan for clues. On the bed, his Bible lies open with a note written inside. I pick it up, hands trembling, and read, I love you. Take care of each other. The words hit me like a tidal wave. Oh no! I think to myself. My life shifts into crisis mode. I snap a picture of the note just in case I need it. As I turn to leave, my eyes land on his dresser. His wallet is still there. His ID, money, and everything except his phone is left behind. That is not like Nate. He never goes anywhere without his wallet. Boom, boom, boom. My heart reminds me of its existence. The realization sinks in, heavy and cold. Something is wrong. Something is very, very wrong. My mind races and flashes through every possible scenario. Where could he be? Is there still time? Where would he go? I think of the woods behind our house near the Chatham Dog Park. He had built a little hangout area out there a couple of years ago. Maybe he went there. I bolted outside and ran towards the creek. I must have been sprinting because I got there in seconds. I call his name repeatedly, and as I reach his little area, but there is nothing, no sign of Nate. The emptiness grows, and my world literally shakes. I am a father, and my son is in danger. I keep moving and head over to our secret watermelon garden. Last year, he wanted to do something he called guerrilla planting, and we planted hundreds of watermelon seeds next to the woods by the cornfield. but there was no Nate in the garden. I start cursing as my world begins to crumble. My thoughts spiral uncontrollably. Time is slipping away, and I realize I need to search faster. I need to think smarter. The urgency is overwhelming. My whole life has led up to this moment, and I cannot afford to miss a single detail. I cannot afford to lose hope. My mind reminds me about Seymour, Nate's special dog. Maybe this was the key to finding Nate. In a rush of hope and desperation, I ran back home. Seymour can help us. As I ran back towards the house, I fired off text to Nate with trembling fingers. Each message was a lifeline, a plea, and a sincere prayer. Please, please, please respond, man. Maybe he'd answer. Maybe I was just overreacting. But a father knows when something is wrong. Inside the house, I find Seymour's harness, but it was a tangled mess. My nerves were shot and my hands were shaking so badly I could barely untwist the straps. Every second felt like eternity. I forced myself to slow down, to breathe, to get the harness on right. Finally, I managed it. I clipped Seymour in and felt a surge of hope. If anyone could find Nate, it was him. Nate, Seymour, and I had spent countless hours walking together, playing Where's Nate? It was a game to train Seymour, to track him down, to find him if he were ever lost. I whispered a prayer that he would remember. We burst out the door, running towards the woods. Seymour's nose was to the ground, his tail high, and his muscles tense. Where's Nate? I urged him, voice cracking. Seymour could tell by the tone of my voice that things were serious. Find Nate, I cried. The woods echoed with my calls. My desperation bounced off the trees. Seymour sniffed, darted, circled, but there was nothing, no sign, no scent, no Nate. My heart sank, but I refused to give up. We raced back to the house, both of our adrenaline still surging. I loaded Seymour into the van. My mind was racing through every possible place to search. By now, I was calling every police station, every jail, every hospital, begging them to check for Nate's name and even asking about John Doe's. Each negative answer was a punch to the gut. This cannot be happening. This cannot be real. I tried to focus. Where would Nate go next? The answer came instantly. The Chatham Wildlife Sanctuary. It was another one of his favorite places, a patch of peace where he could lose himself in nature. I always joked that Nate put the Nate in nature. Among the trees, he was truly himself. He was present, clear, and calm. He must be out searching for his peace. I floored the van and sped towards the sanctuary. There would be no peace for me today. My eyes scanned every area there. My heart was splitting in two. I was breaking apart on the inside. My lungs were losing their ability to breathe. My head spun from side to side. We searched and we researched every section. Find Nate, I cried. Seymour knew exactly what was at stake. He trotted in front of me, guiding me towards Nate. His ears were perked, and so were mine. This was the most important mission of both of our lives. I started to whimper, the sound escaping before I could stop it. Seymour cocked his head in confusion. He had never heard me make that noise before. I tried to pull myself together, but the fear was overwhelming. Again, there was nothing, no sign of Nate. The sanctuary was empty, except for a few fishermen along the lake. I watched them fish as we ran by, oblivious to the horror that was unfolding within me. I loaded Seymour back up and looked at him, hoping he would know where to go next, but he did not know. Then I realized exactly where to go next. I cursed myself under my breath for not starting at the Chatham Bike Trail. Nate and I had walked that trail so many times, it should have been my first stop. I pounded the steering wheel with my hands. Regret gnawed at me, but I forced myself to keep moving. We sped to the bike trail entrance and parked across the street. We moved at a pace that must have drawn attention from the joggers and bikers there, fast enough to catch their eye, but no one even raised a question. I called out for Nate endlessly. My voice echoed off the trees. Please, God, please. In between calls, I kept praying to God and kept begging Seymour to find his boy. Where's Nate? I repeated. Where's Nate? I needed Seymour to pick up a scent, to lead me to him. Come on, Seymour. You can do this. Find Nate. I commanded him 1,000 times. Seymour was doing his absolute best. We searched everywhere and eventually reached the end of the bike trail. Still nothing. My mind raced with worst-case scenarios, but I still fought to hold on to hope. Maybe Nate had just run off. Maybe he was hiding from the world in the woods. Maybe he needed space. I clung to that thought and refused to let more panic take over. On the way back, I kept searching, kept calling, kept praying. I fired off texts to Nate's brothers and anyone else who might have heard from him. Their replies were reassuring. Maybe Nate was just taking time for himself. After all, this wasn't the first therapist appointment he had refused to go to, but their words felt hollow. unable to sense what I sensed as a father. As we got back to the beginning of the bike path, my phone rang. The caller ID flashed. Chatham Police. My heart leapt, a mix of fear and hope. Maybe they had found him. Maybe this nightmare is over. My voice cracked as I answered. The dispatcher was calm and professional. She was just checking to see if I had found Nate and asking if I wanted to make the missing persons report official. Of course I did. The police station was close, so I told her I would be right there. My heart felt like it had aged a decade in the last hour. It wasn't just tired, it was worn, battered, and stretched to its limits. As we got near the police department, my phone rang again. It was the therapist's office. I answered. Maybe Nate had gotten himself to the appointment, but he did not. They were calling to see why the appointment was missed and if we wanted to reschedule. I told them I would call them back. It's about to get really intense, and I think I need to take a break. I'm going to finish this episode for now, right here at the place where Seymour and I ran into the Chatham Police Headquarters. I have to mentally prepare myself for everything that follows. If anything I've said inspires you to help us, to help other people, to help yourself, if you've found any type of inspiration, go to our website, www.natesglow.org, and see what we're doing. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast because I'll be doing the next episode here pretty soon. Love, hope, and faith. Don't miss the next episode of our podcast. Sign up at www.natesglow.org.